I actually really believe that we're making a good game, and every morning the producers remind us of how many days are left until launch, which freaks me out, but we are making a good game. It's coming out soon. I'm excited.
How am I feeling about it? I mean, I'm feeling a little bit nervous, but mostly just excited.
It's getting real, to be honest. The easy way to put it, it's getting real.
It is a bit daunting, but I'm quite excited.
I've never worked on a project that has such a big fan base. Announced trailer came out and seeing so much immediate feedback, I do actually have a little bit of anticipation building up now. I feel like we are really building something that people want.
We're depicting a world in Monument Valley which is much more animated, which is much more alive. You get more of a sense that people are living their lives in this space rather than the first two where, you know, the tone of it was a lot more consistently kind of solitary. I think Monument Valley does best when it is not saying things explicitly. What I hope we've done is hint at something that might kind of spark a story that someone writes in their own head about, you know, a particular character they see sweeping a terrace or you know, doing stretches or something, or, you know, running away from a falling piece of masonry. I don't know. Those are just little touches which feel really lovely. Like Monument Valley has always been about worlds which appear very small, that are self-contained, that you could kind of like look around, and it's nice to have something that feels more alive like that.
Being a leader on a project like this, it's like you really feel like you have to push the boat out in every aspect. You'll see in the trailer the really beautiful water shader that we use a lot in a lot of the different scenes in the game. Not only does it look great, but it also works in impossible space, which is a little bit hard to describe, but the water can exist at different distances from the camera, but as a viewer you wouldn't notice. It looks seamless.
2D plants was a new thing that we've introduced from an art direction perspective that I was really excited about when Lily told me about. That's something she wanted to explore, and that was actually one of my first jobs when I joined the team, was to like start figuring out what does this 2D plants language kind of look like, and how do we implement it with impossible geometry.
It's so nice to have things grow and show, like each screen. Like we really wanted to push this time around of like, if you're looking at a level, you could just watch it and something is moving and something is changing. And the foliage is like the best part about that, because you get to see this world that feels alive, and the flowers and the stems and like just all of it moving while you're trying to do this puzzle, but you can almost just become entranced by looking at this. And that's something that we really wanted to bring to every screen.
The pedigree of Monument Valley comes a lot from graphic design and poster design, and this sort of like minimalist visual language, which is both really striking, but also we sort of say that we want each screenshot to be a printable work of art. And I think that is one of the main reasons people remember and enjoy Monument Valley.
I am most excited for people to hear the audio. I think the audio in this game is unbelievable. Like, I think with each successive game, I think we sort of honed the kind of sonic identity of Monument Valley. Like, I think the first game was our first attempt at creating this like dreamy soundscape. The second game, I think we amped that up, and I feel like the third game has just taken another leap up. I hope people are able to listen to this game.
The game, you know, being such a watery world, it's like the transparency of the strings and the depth and all these other watery analogies, I think and there's such a compatibility with strings. They can sit anywhere, and because we wanted to populate the sound world with lots of like quirkier sounds, it's kind of the perfect bed.
They also just sound more cinematic. It's not the right word, but there's an expensiveness to the sound of the strings. And I think just to sort of up the game and bring this new dimension to the Monument Valley series, really. And Monument Valley 2 was very much like a hybrid sound with really an electronic sort of lo-fi core to it. And we've been editing the soundtrack to Monument Valley 3. It is very much an evolved sound, largely due to Lucy's creative voice being a big part of it as well. But with the string session and all of the other instruments we've recorded, it has a sort of cinematic, more diverse, richer, deeper sound to it, as well as this darker, slightly more serious and somber edge is a result, I think, of the themes in the game ultimately, and the game goes to, I think, darker places than previous titles. And the Monument Valley games are often framed as character journeys of some kind, and they are, but I think the main character in many ways is the world and the architecture. And when you think of a Monument Valley game, the imagery that comes to mind is these beautiful shapes and these impossible connections and these art gallery-like framed scenes. In terms of sound and music, like bringing the world to life, suggesting a world beyond what you actually see as well, is often part of our job. In the village and the lighthouse within Monument Valley 3, then the idea that you're floating in this space and you can hear, seagulls squawking and various things and boys tolling and stuff that aren't necessarily on screen, but we've always got the power to sort of like slightly expand the vista of what you're seeing and suggest a world that exists like beyond what's in the frame.
Playing it through earlier this week and last week has been like, oh wow, this is really good. Like at first, a bit worried. I was like, I feel like we're not taking as many risks. We felt a bit safe, but we've done like a lot and like trying to make it just expanding, I guess, on the world of Monument Valley. I'm interested in seeing how people feel about the boat. It's a new sort of control. We've never had like one-to-one control of a like vehicle in that way. It's always been like tap to move and then like you drag architecture, but now like sailing. It's pretty relaxing though. It's actually quite fun, and like while we've tested, some people have been like, I just want that. I don't want the puzzles, just give me the boat.
I mean, it felt like an easy win at first. It's just like make a big fish that like is going underneath like little characters. At first the fish was like not super big. It was like, it like fit the screen. But yeah, I think we just kept making it bigger and bigger. It seemed like how crazy it could look until the point where we just thought, oh, let's just have it eat the boat. We didn't want it to be too Pinocchio, so we avoided like whales kind of. So we kind of wanted to go with like a koi fish type of thing. But koi fish have really like small little stupid looking mouths, so I ended up kind of basing it more on like a bass fish. So they have these like gigantic mouths that can just kind of like gulp stuff up.
Matt made a puzzle with unfolding, and that was the idea. It was right there as a puzzle, and what we needed was the player to go on a journey to get to that puzzle. And so it was like, okay, well, we need to teach that so that you get to that moment and you know what you have to do and you can just really relish what you're doing. I was worried about the visual challenge of it, but when I spoke to Lily was like, no, I reckon we can do this. And I'm like, okay, cool. Because I was really worried, how are we going to do this? We've never done that with geometry. And then Holly just made something incredible.
I was just like, I wonder if this can be an exercise of taking information away. Like, how much of Monument Valley architecture can I actually take away and this level still reads and is playable and is interesting and exciting?
It was actually quite an abstract feeling to be able to unfold something. Like when you play with origami, it's not all composed together. So I thought it could be quite interesting if you were actually in some sort of weird abstract space everything's sort of like sketchy and not quite finished yet. I think that's why it feels so fresh, because it's like a completely different abstract identity to some of the architecture in the previous games.
When we started to look at the gameplay for Monument Valley 3, we actually didn't have any limitations. We started really wide. It started out, we did a brainstorm of like, well, what kind of things are we interested in? And we put a whole bunch of ideas down, and then we picked one, and we'd spend like a month, sometimes a bit longer, sometimes a bit shorter, depending on the idea and how much it gave in response, and just dive into it and see. So we had ideas like, oh, what if the theme was giants? What would it mean to be in a world of giants? And we'd play around, like Lily would do some visuals, and then we'd try and make levels or puzzles, and what does that mean to be in a world of giants? Or we had some more thematic ones where it's like, oh, what does found family mean? And so we'd think about like the stories we could tell, and what kind of stories could we tell, and what does that mean for the puzzling? Would you meet other people? How would you connect? So starting out was a really broad spectrum, and then trying to find the themes and stories we wanted to tell as a group that fit in this world, that would then connect with an audience that we already had, these people that loved MV3. That was the challenge. So Monument Valley is a really like visually stunning game. It's always been like, each screen is a work of art, was the original like pillar for the first games. And that can often be at odds with like, oh, we made a cool level and it's got all these moving parts and it looks like this, and an artist will look at it and go, okay, maybe it could be a different shape, and you're like, a different shape, but that's a different puzzle. And so there's loads of interesting conversations that happen in that space, and depending on the level, like essentially depending on the level there's different push and pulls. It's like this one we just want to lean into this really cool visual, and so the puzzle is going to be much simpler and just fluid, and maybe it's not even a puzzle, it's a journey moment where you just get to soak in the atmosphere. So the last moments in wheat, where you're walking through the wheat and creating the little white flowers, it's just about soaking in the beauty of this moment. And then other places, like, no, there's this really cool puzzle. Ryan, one of the designers, had an idea for it. He knew there was something there and was playing with a shape and movement and had lots of moving parts. And we sort of saw, like, there was a point where it's like, oh, is this actually going to work or not? There was sort of this critical point where it's like, oh no, maybe this isn't going to come together. And we just took one of the moving parts away. We simplified it just ever so slightly, and then he could see, oh yes, I can see it now. We can do a 3-stage puzzle. We're going to include, like, Shu actually made the original Mobius puzzle, and that was something we had in the bank. And then Ryan could see this journey from the cube, adding the curvy spline, finally turning into the Mobius. And when we started to talk about the story, we started to see, like, maybe this is the journey of the village changing into some softer forms and using a different impossible form to anchor it in the centre. It is one of the hardest puzzles, and even when I go back and play it, I'm like, how do I do this again? And then I remember, like, oh, if I do this once and then I do this twice, there's a pattern to it, and I'm like, I remember the pattern. But you can lose track of where you've got to and have to retrace your steps, which often you don't have to do in a Monument Valley puzzle. Often they're relatively linear, and there's not many red herrings or dead ends. So just some little subtle clues to, to like ground you, and so you don't get too lost.
It's always important for us to find a way to use our power as game makers to have a positive impact on people and planet. With Monument Valley 3, there were different areas that we explored. We knew it had to be anchored around nature. And as the themes evolved, we honed in on the area of floods. How could we help raise awareness about the impact of floods, and how could we support people that are actively working on the ground to support communities affected by floods. So we ended up building a partnership with Red Cross, where we will be donating 3% of our profits to support flood relief efforts. By playing Monument Valley 3, you are helping us support communities and families all over the world affected by floods. So we really can't wait for players all over the world to be able to experience Monument Valley 3.